you know what, then Mexico could become stronger than us, so we're going to do deals with the cartel. Like,
Yeah.
that's realpolitik, right?
Or
And-
say, yeah, Israel is we are partners to the end, and this is how it is.
Yeah.
Like, I'm kind of conflicted about Trump, like, with his stance on Gaza, right? To me, that's like,
I totally disagree with him on it, and it's like, it's hard to reconcile it in many ways. It's hard to reconcile because I see so much hypocrisy in terms of when we say America first, for whatever reason, we have this magic carve out. And you cannot pretend that that's not because AIPAC spends $100 million in our election. And this gets back to what we were talking about, whether it's Big Pharma, whether it's Israel, everyone's for sale in DC. And so I have been very disappointed with Trump on his perspectives about Gaza. I have been disappointed, by the way. He's the last person I'm disappointed with, because I've been disappointed, as we saw all last year, with the conservatives, people that say they're Christians, who are condoning this on the basis of what? Like, you're saying, oh, well, they're Muslims, so who cares? And that gets into our programming, which I've spoken about in my podcast, of this 9/11 programming, where we just don't see Muslims as like human life. And to me, to speak about Gaza and talking about casinos and hotels, and these people just lost their entire families.
Yeah.
It's so far removed from humanity, and I think it's wrong. And I'm tired of America being used as Israel's piggyback. You know, for whatever reason, everyone can critique every other country for taking money from us, and then there's just, everyone's blind when it comes to Israel. And obviously, I paid a very heavy price for saying that last year, but I don't care, because I am truly someone whose values have never been up for sale. Like, I don't care. I will burn everything to the ground and rebuild it. I have to be able to like sleep at night, and to see those Palestinian children, and the images are seared into my brain. The screaming, the crying, the bleeding, the stuff that we saw on X for the first time, largely thanks to Elon freeing the bird, and really realizing how much we had been lied to about what was happening in that region. I just, it was very easy for me to say, take whatever you have to take from me. I have to be on like the human side of things.
I think it's become both sides of the aisle now just see that, yeah, human people just feel like this is that it's just wrong.
Of course.
What's happened is wrong. Like, probably a year ago, people were afraid to even say that. And now it is what everybody is saying. Like, even Piers Morgan is saying it on his show now. Like, people are saying it's obvious that you can't go and annihilate and genocide this culture and make them disappear. And then Trump to come on top of it and say they're going to build, you're going to go on a lazy river where there's bodies of, like, who could even go to that?
And what's so crazy is the mainstream media thinking that we're so stupid that they're going to condition us to believe that to not support the ethnic cleansing, they're then going to mine our like preconditioned beliefs about the Holocaust and be like, oh, well, you know, a Jewish person died. So if you don't agree with what we're doing over here, then you're a person that wants more Jewish people to die. It's like, this is an evil way to try to socially engineer what you want, because actually it's precisely because of what I learned growing up about Holocaust and ethnic cleansings that I do not support what the state of Israel is doing. And you're trying to convince me that it means that if anybody's been wronged in the past, they can't wrong people in the future. You're also wrongly conflating, like, a Jewish American. Why? You have nothing to do with what's going on in Israel. This is a foreign country. You know, no more than if right now we were standing up to a genocide that was happening in Ghana.
Yeah.
And then when I'm going to be like, oh, well, if you don't support what, you know, the president of Ghana wants to do, then you want American slavery back. I'm like, it's like, what are you talking about? Just because I'm black and like maybe my family is from Ghana, why on earth would I not be able to critique a foreign country for something that they're doing that is so objectively wrong?
Yeah.
And so it's disappointed me as someone who just had so much respect and belief in the conservative movement and believing that it was a principled movement, and Christians as well. I've been very disappointed in Christians who are trying to use this like biblical argument for just, well, no matter what, like, you know.
Are people doing that?
Yeah, it's pretty sick, man. It is very sick. They're basically saying that the Bible, you know, the Bible will bless those who bless Israel. And I'm like, okay, so we have a country who first and foremost doesn't have to give us back our pedophiles. Literally, they have this weird rule that you can go if you're Jewish and hide as a pedophile. And actually an amazing Jewish organization did the work there. You could pull it up. I think it was on CBS. I forgot what the name of the Jewish organization, but they went to Israel and was like, why are we harboring pedophiles?
So there was a Jewish organization that they had pedophiles.
They did amazing. No, they were not the pedophiles. They did the investigation to show how people are using, how like people who have molested children in America, if they're Jewish, they can then make their trip to Israel and be protected by the government. And Israel doesn't have to bring, like, they literally don't have to. Yeah.
Exposing
CBS News, that's second one,
how
right?
Jewish American
You will not
pedophiles
find a single person who says that that's wrong.
hide from justice in Israel. But can't they hide? Can't most people say if you are, so these are people that are Israeli citizens?
No, they can then become Israeli. So they're American, right? So if they just hop, if they're being in, like on a trial, you get to Israel, they'll protect you. And so they went to where all these, pedophiles are, and spoke a lot about, this, or I can't remember the name of the organization, but they did amazing work there. Jewish Community Watch, that's what it is. And so that's what I mean, where it's like there's also this wrong conflation that annoys me as well, because you have Jewish organizations who will objectively say this is wrong. They recognize they are Americans. They don't support pedophiles. And yet the mainstream media is trying to conflate them and make them think that they have to defend the actions of this state. And yeah, if you even talk about this, so say it's anti-Semitic, talk about this. What are you talking about? You're taking billions. That's the difference here. This is a country that is taking billions and billions and billions. It's an American welfare state, And CBS jumped on it. A CBS News investigation has found that many accused American pedophiles flee to Israel, and bringing them justice can be difficult.
Okay, has been trying for years to find
Caro's
Caro
one
and
of
help bring
them.
to justice. So Jimmy Caro, he's a wanted man and is considered dangerous, accused of assaulting a 9-year-old girl in Oregon in 2000. He fled to Israel before authorities in the U.S. could apprehend him. But is this just one guy?
No. So this is a story about how they are doing this. Like, it's the main story is like that they were investigating is that there's so many people that did this.
Why do they allow it?
Because they have special consideration and they are not allowed. They don't have to give us back our pedophiles. I don't know. I never understand these random Israeli loopholes, and it's ridiculous. And the fact that they can just call people anti-Semitic, like it's just like a sweeping allegation. How dare you notice that this is happening over here? You anti-Semite, and it's like we have every right to critique this nation because you take money from us, especially, right? That means when we go to work and taxes are being taken away, we're paying to support this.
Well, yeah,
And then we're being
I know that
gaslit by the media who's telling us that critiquing them in any way is an act of hatred for Jews, which is just such a nonsense.
Oh, I don't like that Netanyahu guy, man.
I hate him.
That guy seems like an evil guy to me, and I think he's seemed like that to most people now because of, mostly I think it's just like nobody wants war or anything, and we're lucky to live in a place where like Tennessee's not at war with Kentucky, so there's not like the risk every day or night of things flying over, the fence. But I've thought that America is a kind of like a shell company sometimes. But maybe it's always just been that way. Like that's the thing. Like maybe it's always been that way. Maybe it isn't. I just would like to know what it is, right? So then it's like you can operate within the reality of things.
Yeah.
But then also people say that. Like, well, why do you think there's such a strong relationship between the two countries then?
Blackmail. I think blackmail. And I think this is the reason why we don't get to open the Epstein files. We don't get to open the JFK files. And I think it's a form of gaslighting us to pretend that our special friend and ally isn't just and by the way, parking aside America, other countries too. You investigate anything. I mean, I'm investigating Brigitte Macron, and Israeli blackmail comes up in Morocco. Israeli blackmail comes up in. So to pretend that we don't know that Israel is involved in blackmail operations is foolish. And again,
I think all countries are probably involved in them.
And I think that they have been like they have gotten it down to a science. And there's no question in my mind that like sexual blackmail is what Jeffrey Epstein was involved in. And I don't know if that means these people don't know when they go to these parties that the girls are underage, and then it's like, haha, we've got you on tape, whatever it is. And we can even taking a look at the Diddy case, blackmail, these powerful blackmail operations are definitely operating. And
that's actual blackmail too.
Yeah, it's true blackmail. I mean, if you have hidden cameras and you're capturing people doing drugs and sleeping with underage people. So I think these are blackmail operations, and I think they've been going on for decades in America. I think it was Jeffrey Sachs who spoke really well about that, the history of that on Tucker Carlson's show. And he's Jewish, and that's what I hate about it. It's trying to make Jewish Americans think that they have to defend the country is so ridiculous. I am not required to, if my family goes back to Uganda, I'm not required to defend Uganda as a state. I'm sorry, I'm an American, and I think what you're doing is wrong if it doesn't really matter, And you're right to say that it's sort of this circumstance where everybody knows something is going on, and they think they're just going to keep gaslighting us. It's so weird. Like they're just going to go, nothing's going on. Nothing. There's just every day, everybody woke up one day and decided to be Hitler. Like that's what the media is basically accusing us of, for like noticing a lot of dead people, like a lot of dead women and children. And that's failing. And by the way, I think that is the reason. I don't regret them doing that, because it's the reason why
Regret who doing that?
podcasts like the mainstream media, you know, this like effort to just keep smearing, libeling people for noticing basic human things. And I don't regret it, because I think it's the reason that trust with them has been fractured. I'm grateful that people no longer believe them. I'm grateful that now people are going to independent podcasts. And when we go on Spotify, you see like Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens. That means that for holding on to just like basic human values and being willing to talk about issues in a way and not pretend that your audiences are stupid and not seeing what you're we've earned their trust, you know. And I don't want to fumble that ball. Like I want to always say, even if I don't know something, and sometimes I can't speak on it, that I don't know everything, but I'm willing to find out before I speak on it, or at least have the conversation and not treat you like you're an idiot and I'm like the authority.
Yeah, I just can't learn at a fast rate. That's one of my biggest issues, I think. Speaking about Epstein, right? How do you know he's not just a Jewish guy who was being perverted or whatever, and that he was doing business? Like, there's no real connection that he works for Israel, though.
Well, he had passports. Yeah. So, and then it's also his ties to Ghislaine Maxwell, Ghislaine's father, Robert Maxwell. The whole Mossad attended his funeral. He died in very weird circumstances. I don't think even people who are pro-Zionist would deny that he was obviously Israeli-American intelligence. And he had weird passports. I mean, he had like a Saudi Arabian passport, an Israeli passport, an American passport.
Oh, he's perving then.
And yeah, and under different names, by the way. He had working passports of these different countries with different names. You can't just get that. You know what I mean? You can't just get these passports without being connected to the intelligence services. And it was never made clear why he was so rich. So who was giving him all that money? Was this like black ops, our tax dollars going to give him this illusion of wealth and power so that he would party with all of these billionaires? And yes, you're right. Blackmail operations happen all across the world. I think America, in terms of just how America has been seized, that's the only explanation for how Israel's able to expand with such a small population. And like, you know, somebody has to be fighting their wars. Somebody has to be funding them. We're funding them. So I think we've just become like the piggy bank to them.
But how do you keep like, how do you keep your Jewish friends but have issues with like Israel and stuff like that? How do you manage that?
I haven't, not even one Jewish friendship has ended, because it's very weird. Like the purpose of these advocacy groups.
And Jewish agents set this up today too, I want to know.
Yeah, but that's the point. Once you know people, they're not going to fall. You think I grew up in a very Jewish town. I grew up just outside of New York City. And all my best friends growing up were Jewish. It just happened to be the way that it was. And so like, you're not going to convince them, these people, that like I was at their Rosh Hashanah dinner. Like I know Jewish prayers. And the Jewish families that I worked for in New York, overnight that Candace turned into Adolf Hitler. Like that actually is being sold.
Oh, that's a good point.
It's just like, they're not going to buy that. You know what I mean? So it's stupid. But the other thing is that they haven't yet worked through, I think, this new generation of smear tactics, like the people that are employing it now, people like Barry Weiss, they haven't quite figured out that once people have a platform that's big, like if people are watching your show every single day, and I say, actually, Theo Von is an avowed racist, like he is the second coming of whoever, you know, he just wants slavery back. You're not just condemning Theo Von. You're condemning the millions of people that listen to him, and they get mad because they know they're going to be like, I listen to his show every day. What are you talking about? Like he says raisins are, you like raisins because they're grapes that have been through shit. That's a Theo Von quote.
Yeah, I would never do slavery, dude. I have fucking 3 employees. I can barely
But if
handle
I
these
had
guys.
advocacy groups and tons of money, I could just be like, write articles that say Theo Von hates black people. Okay, we could do it, but at the end of the day, people that listen to you know better, and they get angry, and all it does is it breaks them away from trusting the mainstream media more, because they are listening to you every day. So I have the confidence in my followers. They know me. They know who I am. I don't hate anybody. I just hate liars, and they come in all different shapes and sizes and races and religions. You can find you can find you a liar anywhere. So.
Yeah. Well, I do think, because there's also a lot of great